This video is brought to you in part by Chrono.gg. Chrono.gg is a great website that sells one video game per day at an incredibly low price. If you want to support myself and a good outlet for picking up your games, check out chrono.gg/downwardthrust. Tomb Raider has been part of culture for a long time, since the early 2000s, and it's safe to say it's one of the most interesting franchises out there. Probably not the most popular, but I mean, everyone knows who Lara Croft is. But a long time ago, people just stopped making single-player video games. They simply fell out of fashion. Yet today, 2013 and onward has seen two really good Tomb Raider games that have come out and succeeded due to a very rare advancement in how single-player games are made. Adventure games today, the very few that we do see, are absolutely nothing like what we grew up on. Some of the old Tomb Raider games get really old school, isometric twin-stick shooting games with a lot of walking around, doing puzzles, and platforming. It was the era of running and jumping and collecting, and combining that with a horrendous camera made many of us yearn for the advancements of today. The once demon of the gaming underworld, the camera, has gotten a lot better. It really pulls us into games these days because it really never gets in your way. Shooting, it's easier. Landing on a platform, it's easier. Doing a puzzle, it's easier because you can see more of what's going on around you. You don't see a lot of intricate puzzles in modern action games today, do you? But the new Tomb Raider games have found a nice cozy middle ground for them thanks to how much camera work has improved over time. And it's not just the camera we use. Cinematography has gotten so incredibly fantastic today. The new Tomb Raider games have become incredibly vivid with how much interactivity and eye candy is on display. There is such detail in the presentation that you might mistake it for a movie. You've got your standard cutscenes and live player commentary, but the true star is the interactive gameplay cinematics where stuff is happening around you, yet you're still in control. 10 years ago, you would have never imagined having this cliff collapse under you unless it was in a cutscene, but now we actually get to control these portions, and it has a great side effect. It doesn't pull you away from the game. And the combat in single-player adventure games has also taken a more uncharted direction, both in terms of physical gunplay and the ability to integrate stealth. You can pretty much play how you want, craft what suits your playstyle, and focus on the things you like. The advancement of AI has obviously allowed games to do this. Early games didn't have things like directional stealth systems, smart AI, or real-time detection meters. Games have become so organic since the reboot, blending stealth with combat, exploration with storytelling, and cinematography with real-time gameplay all in one, a unification that was impossible with the early Tomb Raider games. By the time of the reboot of Tomb Raider in 2013, the Uncharted franchise popularized the consolidation and collection of these forward-thinking ideas into what we used to call the classic adventure game. But now we have a nice camera, we've got really cool gameplay, interactive cinematics, lifelike characters, and huge epic stories. But why have so many single-player games not taken all these ideas, just like Tomb Raider did, The Last of Us and Uncharted, and made a game with them in the modern age? Well, that's the thing, there aren't that many games out there that have actually tried to do so. Tomb Raider decided to jump in on that movement and has been able to encompass these ideas into Lara Croft's Adventures, Tomb Raider, and Rise of the Tomb Raider. It's not a cheap way to make a game, but the face of Lara helps ship copies. This new archetype for the cinematic action-adventure game is a recipe that's pretty difficult to get a pass on from a development standpoint because it's such a highly expensive way to make a video game. Full-time action game, full-time stealth game, full-time movie, adventure, puzzle thinker, and crafting simulation all in one. What makes this style of game awesome though when we do see it is that all the gameplay is interwoven into a very refined package. Contrary to open world games, you've really got the perfect amount of each component, and the games make such good use of the combination. For example, a typical level in a Tomb Raider game will incorporate pretty much everything you want, but in moderation. Linear sections, open world exploration to feed crafting.
That did it. Now for a little fire.
Dialogue, interactive cinematics, gunfights, a stealth section, maybe a small puzzle, you get the point. It's almost like you're riding a wave in these games, high and low, excitement, downtime, tension, and fun all wrapped up in one nice package. The beauty of the new Tomb Raider games is that pretty much anyone can get into them, but of course there are some downsides too. If you're looking for a deep puzzle, you'll be hard-pressed to find one until deep into the game. Lara herself can be quite serious and lifeless as well, especially in the 2003 reboot. She's very serious, and the tone of the game can often match that with a little humor, unlike an Uncharted game. The combat is also very iterative. There's not much new in terms of mechanics that we haven't already seen. So essentially, Tomb Raider is really good at everything, but not best in class at anything when you really break it down. You can find better shooting in other games, better dialogue, a better story, better platforming, but everything is still very good in these two games, especially in Rise of the Tomb Raider. For me, there was a clear jump in quality from Tomb Raider to Rise of the Tomb Raider, and that's what I really like to see from a sequel, a better game in just about every department. Rise of the Tomb Raider definitely has a more epic feel to it. You can just feel the awesomeness of the mountains looming down on you as you climb up ice walls with the howling winds racing around you, desperately hanging on for dear life. Croft, she's in Siberia in search of a mythical city which is said to contain the secret to immortality. But it's not safe there, of course. The Trinity is after you, the elements are out to kill you, and Laura herself is battling her inner demons as per the usual. The adventure just feels so much bigger in scale and presentation. Just a stunning game to look at and be a part of.
Incredible.
I love how they mix up the gameplay in this game. It's some small tweaks here and there, but they do have a nice impact, where logical puzzle solving combines with fantastic level design. You're encouraged to solve puzzles without having to get lost, and that was a big problem in prior games. And there's much more of an option to be a stealthy player with the new hunting knife, where you can hide in bushes and trees, scale buildings, use gadgets to mess around with your enemies, and a lot more. But it's never too much of anything, and that's the key to a good Tomb Raider game. The game space is pretty small compared to big open world games, but it never discourages you from exploring. Hell, it encourages you to do so, especially with the rebreather for underwater exploration. But it's definitely a game, just like Tomb Raider, that uses a lot from prior games. Much of the platforming is pretty much the same, but the fact is that it was good in the first place, which means it's more than welcome here. But there's a lot more to interact with when you're actually playing and platforming, like stuff crumbling beneath your feet, which makes you stay on your toes. The journey is really fun, yet the game seems a lot more linear, even though the story is a lot more epic in idealism. Laura herself is a good lead, although she can be kind of straightforward at times and kind of boring, but she is still Lara Croft. One of the things that has sunk other new single-player games is that it's often hard to identify with the main character. Croft is someone who many of us grew up with, and with 10 or more games behind our belt, we can relate to her. It's basically the beauty of being a long-standing franchise, this kind of goodwill you have with fans of the game. But when you really boil it down, Tomb Raider and Rise of the Tomb Raider are good, maybe borderline great games that have followed in some very successful yet very similar footsteps. They may not win any awards for best game ever, and many people consider them actually to be B-rated games, although very competent still, aka they get the job done kind of games. They haven't been a big innovator, but what they do offer is fairly high quality, and personally I think it's okay to take a great formula for success and spin it off into something new. This rare single-player adventure genre has been in decline because of how infrequent games have come around and continue to evolve this formula, besides of course Uncharted and now Rise of the Tomb Raider. The reason for the successes of Tomb Raider is because there's just no competition out there. There's no similar games like Uncharted, like The Last of Us, and like Tomb Raider. Single player, adventure, stealth, action, puzzles, high quality cinematics, interactive, environmental design. Few games have tried, many games are stuck in the past, and even fewer have the face of Laura to back them up. Thanks for watching, guys. I really appreciate it. Hope you're having a kick-ass day, and we'll see you in our next video.